This is the Illimitable Experience Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Illimitable Experience Podcast. If you're watching this video, like this video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel. And overall, you guys like, share, and subscribe. We are posting great content regularly. With that, today we have as our guest Vishal, who I've known when I was in school in Dubai. Hi Vishal, how are you?
All good, man. Thank you for having me. Excited.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
Vishal, it is like it's good catching up with you. We were in the school and we have done 3 grades together in our own itself. And
Yeah.
things drifted. I mean, we went in different directions. After grade 5, I went to
Yeah.
India and you continued studying in Dubai. So
Yep.
how has been the education that you have received in Dubai so far?
Yeah. I mean, we go way back, huh? Like it's been what 15, 20 years now. Makes me feel old. But yeah, I'm first of all glad to be here. And I know a lot of people have this like, we take our separate paths. A lot of them go to India. Funnily enough, even when we were in fifth grade, I was also supposed to leave to India at that year. Everything was done. I'd taken the TC out of school. Everything was set. But then last minute, there was a decision made to, not do that and then continue in Dubai, which I'm actually a little grateful for because every what I'm doing right now wouldn't have happened if I wasn't in Dubai. Schooling and university in Dubai is great. I personally enjoyed it. I think it's quite subjective also based on, people and what they like and who they are as individuals. But for me as a person, it's been great. Like my school offered a lot of activities and, extracurriculars and platforms for you to grow your skills, which really shaped who I was out of school, gave me a head start in my career as well, and then gave me a head start in uni. And like right after high school, I did my university in Dubai as well. And again, it was just a personal choice considering our financial situation, considering that I was, brought up in Dubai. So I didn't see myself, adjusting very well in India, like going back there. It's not like I would have not, but I just preferred being here. And it was a good balance between going to Europe or the West and then going back to India. So I think like I was able to get the European education or that experience um, from an academic standpoint, but in Dubai at the comfort of my home, at in a market that I've grown up in. So it was good. Like I've had a great experience. I've learned a lot, and the opportunities I've had while studying has given me the platform to grow, to do cool things. So yeah, it's and just academic wise, we went to CBSE, so obviously we're tougher than most people. So from there, the jump to a Scottish, I went to Heriot University, which is a university based of Edinburgh, and they have their campus in Dubai. So I studied there. So it was a very, very good shift for me because I'm used to vigorous class hours, 8 hours. You know how CBSE was, and I took science in high school, so that was even worse. So from that, I jumped to majoring in business and finance in a curriculum that's a little more easier as compared to CBSE. So I found it a lot more better. I had I was able to I was a straight A student in uni, and that gave me more time to focus on other things. So overall, it was really good. Yeah,
Wow, that's quite a journey that you have completed so far. Now,
yeah,
Vishal, I completed my university education in India, and you completed your university education from a UK-based college, but in Dubai. The
yeah,
way there are huge drastic differences in the way students view the universities. Where I come from, students viewed university as a way of securing a job. They
yeah,
did not most of them did not have the business acumen that immediately if I can start any business
yeah.
that I can do after graduation. So that is one major difference that I saw in the
Mhm.
universities in India. How did the students in here see the university education as?
See, to be fair, the balance is the fact that I think a lot of students, what I personally feel is a lot of students in India, I think they're a lot more independent compared to students here because we're still brought up in like a bubble, so to say, because we still live with our parents. We grew up without a little bit of independence. It's comfortable here, I will say that, like maybe comparatively somewhere else, like things, everything's easy. It's still like you were in school but you just shifted to uni, so the comfort level allowed us to explore more things and do other stuff, whereas maybe if you grew up in the Middle East or somewhere else and then you went to India, it might take that adjusting period because you're moving from to a very different environment. You have to get used to living alone, get become independent, but that on its own helps you grow as a person. Like I feel like the skills that you learn being on your own has its own advantages, which I don't think a lot of us have who have grown up in that bubble in Dubai. And by bubble I mean in that comfort of our homes and
That
with our
comfort.
parents. Yeah, so I think, but in terms of from a business perspective or opportunities perspective or how students view university here, again, it's very subjective. For some students, here the education is great. Like, I do feel like I'm glad that I made that shift from an Indian curriculum to a curriculum that's, that's European, not to discredit the Indian education system. It's just that I found it personally better suited to who I am. I was able to, it gave me more time to go and get practical experience where I went and actually did stuff in the market. I started, doing projects, starting my own NGO, starting a lot of things, and that practical experience of doing things actually helped me gain more skills than sitting in class and doing something. So it was very like balance. So I could see that some of the lectures that I went to in uni, I could apply what I learned there or what I heard there in the actual stuff that I did in Dubai in terms of business or in terms of executing for brands or working on events or whatever that we did in uni, right? And another big advantage here is that uni is only for 6 months. So it's literally September to November. And then you have 1 month mostly for exams or whatever. And then it's Jan to March. And then you have 1 month off again for finals. April, there's 3 days of finals. And then 3 months off again. So that 6 months technically is only when you're in uni. The rest of the time, you have enough and ample opportunity to go and work, do whatever you want. So it's how you utilize that 6 months that really sets apart students. So some students, obviously, from the first year itself, they start doing internships, they get ahead in the marketplace, they make connections. So as soon as they graduate, or even before they graduate, they've got jobs lined up. They've got contacts lined up. Everything is set for them. But for
Wow.
others, maybe they don't view it that way. They take their time off. They might explore. They might go and travel. So it really depends on what you how you utilize your time off, because universities, at least the international unis here, there are a couple of Indian unis here as well, but international unis here, it's a little less stressful compared to obviously the Indian ones. So again, I think it's subjective, but people who have managed to utilize their time well, they've got a really good kickstart in their careers, whether that's starting their own thing or whether that's working for MNC or big companies here. So yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. No,
Yeah.
I have moved to Dubai and it's only been a year. I haven't gone into any university, but my brother is in the uni here. So as an outsider, one of the major differences that I saw was the way the bubble that you spoke about, the comfort at which you're receiving great education. So
Yeah.
as a boy from Mumbai who completed his uni there, for us the way to travel to the university was the local train. Okay, and it
Yeah.
is crowded, very crowded, and in the rush
I
hours
know.
you already know about the situation. But when I
We
saw
met
the
in
student,
Mumbai, right? Like
yeah,
last two
right,
years
in
ago. So I remember. Yeah.
2019, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and when I saw the students over here that they have their own cars to commute to university, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is quite a first world experience that seeing.
For
And
sure.
then I
Yeah.
saw that oh, I mean, students are really lucky that they are getting such comfort to gain the education, and
Yeah.
some make a great benefit out of it. Some may not be able to realize the comfort that they are in, but yeah, that's the major difference that I saw. But once even I go to
Yeah.
a university to pursue my masters, maybe I'll be able to speak a lot more on the differences.
Yeah, for sure. And it's rightly said, like I still think a lot of students here don't understand the kind of privilege that they have. And you're talking about cars, but we can go into the kind of cars some of the students drive here. Like, I know a lot of my friends and I don't mean this in a very, like bratty way. They're not brats, but some of them, because fortunately, touchwood of the wealth that their family have or whatever, they got their car before they got their license. So some of them have had like cars gifted to them while they were doing their, driving license. And as soon as they got the license, they started driving their car. So and there are levels to it. Like some of them obviously still take the metro, still take the bus. Like obviously I still took the bus when I was in uni, and then I carpooled with my friends to save money because I'm not from a very well off or rich family. We come from a humble origin, and we still are going that way. So I still take metro even now, like running my own business and doing things. Whenever I can, I take metro. But that being said, there's still the fact that we have Uber, we have Kareem. So, if I want to go here to anywhere I want at any time, I can do that. Even students can. Those who have their own cars, even easier. Like I know people with G63s, with the Teslas, with people who roll up in Land Cruisers, and all of this at the age of 18, 19. One of my brother's friends has an Alfa Romeo at 19, and yeah, like what people talk about Dubai, in a lot of sense it's true. It is how it is. Like it's there's a lot of privilege here.
This reminds me of a meme that I saw some time ago. It says that you can
Yeah.
never say money cannot buy happiness in Dubai.
Yeah, for sure, man. The cars that people drive here, yeah, 100%.
It's
Yeah,
crazy. It's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah. So, Vishal, you told me that you were a straight A student in your school, straight A student in your school. You were also the
yeah,
head boy of your school.
yeah,
So, as a person who is listening to this for the first time, or who will be listening to this episode for the first time, you will obviously come off as a person who is more studious and not inclined towards more activities. But yet, and my presumption would be that you would take up any science related, education in
yeah.
university. But then you choose to take business and finance. So what led you to that transition from a person who is very studies oriented to a person who
Yeah.
is more I would say opportunities and on the field work oriented?
Yeah, so just a quick correction there. So in high school, I wasn't studious. I was very actively involved in extracurriculars activities in 11th and 12th. Till 10th grade, yes, I was very studious, 10 CGPA, straight A student, whatever. 11th and 12th, I made that jump into science, and I'm sure every CBSE student can relate that once you make that jump, it's very, very hard. Like I went from getting, 90 plus in every exam to getting 6 out of 20 in my first test in 11th grade. I still remember that mark because that was the worst I've ever done in like my 5 years in high school, 4 years in high school. So, but in 11th and 12th, I was never in class. Like, I don't think there was a time when I was in class, like, studying. I was just outside for extracurricular competitions, taking part in stuff, club initiatives, running events, whatever, because I found more happiness doing those things than I ever did sitting in class, and I felt like I was learning a lot more there than I did when I was sitting in class. And again, it's not to say you shouldn't be in class. There were like sometimes I do wish that I start in class because it would have made my exam life a lot more easier. But again, but those opportunities open my mind up to like how to run businesses or how to approach people. It built a lot of my soft skills, like people said. I got better at speaking with people, presenting, and I understood that I had a passion for that too. And science was taking its course, and like majority of high schoolers, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I did a lot of things, I enjoyed a lot of things, but I didn't know what I wanted to pursue. So by I think even mid 12th grade or end of 12th grade, that's when you need to start applying, right? And I really wanted to go to the US or to Europe to study. That's what I was convinced I was going to do. But I still wasn't sure which course or what I was going to do. I applied to random things. Like I was applying to Texas for, I still remember I was applying to petroleum engineering at one point, and then one point I was applying to Singapore for environmental engineering. So because I took science, I thought, okay, the most logical thing to do is get into engineering. But my test grades were bad. I was barely passing. I was not doing well. Yes, I was head boy because I scraped through 11th with a 78%, which was decent enough. and I did my extracurricular as well. So, and I had leadership qualities, which, led me to getting that position, which I don't think, now that I think about it, it's not really a big deal. It's just like a glorified leadership position that schools give you. But once that got done, this was a very pivotal point in my life. I enrolled in BITS Pilani Dubai for engineering. It was all done. Fees was paid, everything was done. But the 6 months before you join uni, I was preparing for an international competition called F1 in schools. So we were representing UAE for the World Finals that year, my team. So it was sort of a very big thing for me because if we won that, like globally, we would get a full scholarship to study in London, like a $1.5 million scholarship to study in London, all five of us, the team members. So I was like, this was sort of my ticket out of Dubai. Like I really saw that, okay, even if bits was paid for, if I got a full 4 year ride, why wouldn't I take that? So I gave my life to that competition for 6 months. Like it was like a 250,000 dirham project. So we had to raise the money on our own. So I had to go and get sponsors, convince big brands to invest the money in us, utilize that budget properly for the project, see where to spend money, where to save money, how to, it really taught me a lot of things generally about business itself. And within that 6 months, we went to Singapore. We didn't do well, and we didn't win. And just before I left to Singapore, there was 10 days where I studied in bits, and I knew in those 10 days that I don't want to do this. Like I was not interested in the classes. The subjects didn't interest me. I thought uni would be different, but it was just like I went from high school to uni, but the subjects were the same: physics, chem, math. It was painful for me, honestly. That experience was horrible because I just hated what I was studying. And when I went to Singapore and I lost everything, it was a life-changing experience because I, at the time of my life there, even though it didn't do that well, we didn't do well. I met, like, I don't know, 200 students from across the globe from different countries. So start speaking to them, everything. I realized that, you know what, I should be doing business. I should be doing something in that field because that's what I like. So I came back, spoke to my mom and dad about it, and obviously I've touched it. I'm very grateful to have supportive parents, and they agreed. They're like, it's okay, like, we all make mistakes, it's fine. Drop out and then join the next sem in business somewhere. And I joined Harryport right after, and I think that's one of the best decisions I ever made because I met the people who I met my co-founders there, like who I've been still working with for the past 5 years. If it wasn't for that decision I made, I wouldn't have met them. I wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing now. All the opportunities I've had to set up my own nonprofit, work with governments, work with global brands, go and give these workshops. None of this would have happened if I didn't make that shift. So I think jumping into something you love, if you have that gut feeling, you should jump into it because even if it doesn't work out the way you want, I really think the things that you will not regret it. Honestly, you wouldn't. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Vishal, with this Singapore incident that you told me, so I do remember that back in 2016 or 17, you had made this, posted on Facebook, if I'm not wrong, or made a
Yeah,
Facebook story.
15.
Yeah,
Yeah.
15 towards that in that year. And I was thrilled to know that, okay, what is he doing that he got to visit Singapore for F1? So can
Yeah.
you tell me in detail about the Singapore thing?
Sure, yeah, yeah. So it's a high school competition run by Formula One itself, where it's like a miniature version of F1, where you form a Formula One team. You have like 5 to 6 members. You have to build and design and manufacture your own F1 car. It's like a miniature version of it. And people think it's a toy, but it's not. Like it's like you're designing with AutoCAD. You have to, manufacture it with materials that they tell you to manufacture. You need to tested in a track, like it's a 20-meter track. You need to test it, and you have to build a pit display. You have to build a portfolio, like showing how the design process, how you manufactured the car, how you got sponsors. You need to go and get money for it. All you have to do on your own. So it was a very good. It's F1's project to teach high schoolers or convince high schoolers to get into the industry. But at the same time, that experience teaches you a lot when you're young. Like it teaches you so much about all the things that I just mentioned about, like, for design engineers and designers, it's incredible because imagine designing F1 cars at that age. And like, our designers and students from our school did some incredible stuff. Like they've designed some beautiful cars. But we were the first team from GEMS to represent the country in the World Finals, and we got that opportunity. We went to Singapore. We were competing with like 40 countries, and I don't remember, but I think we came like 28th or 27th in the world at that time, which is not a
Wow.
really good. And now UAE is doing much better. Like I think the best position we've had is sixth in the world. A couple of years ago, like a team from Dubai did that. But at that time, it was again. I really wanted to win. We went with that mentality of winning, but obviously, things don't work out the way you want. But the experience really drastically changed me. Yeah, the things that I learned was incredible. I realized I love working with big brands. I wanted to pitch to them. I wanted to do something in that field where I'm speaking, where I'm developing campaigns, where I'm developing, and doing my own thing. I was a team manager back then too. So leading people, all of that really excited me more than anything else. So I still didn't figure out which industry I wanted to get into, but I knew I wanted to do these things like speak, design, work with brands. That's what I wanted to do. But that only came a little later on in uni. When I started doing more things, I understood, okay, this might be an industry I can get into. But yeah, and I think like my co-founders also participated in F1. Although now it's like it's been like 7 years. Any person who's participated in this competition anywhere will tell you how much that experience changed their life. Like it is one of the best experiences anyone in high school can go through, especially if you are into cars as well. Oh my god, like there's nothing like it. Like we've got to walk in the pit lanes in Grand Prix. We were judges for the competitions even after we finished it, so we are technically F1 and schools alumni, so we get invited back to judge the junior competitions. We get free F1 tickets every year. Um, if we judge. So those were advantages we took even after we were done. But yeah, the experience is really cool, man. And if there's any high schoolers watching this, I think India also took part for a couple of years, if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure if they're still there, but I think back in 2014, India did participate. 2015 also. I'm sure like India can do tons of things in this. I really hope to see people from there also take part.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Talking about pitching and everything, I follow your work closely. Although not every time it
Hmm.
is possible to ask about your work in details because both of us are busy in our own
Of
manner.
course.
I recently saw that you did a marketing campaign for American Eagle, and you
Yeah.
had called a few, influencers, and that was quite fascinating to see, and to
Yeah.
see that now to hear that how you started your, business or your, soft skills, and to the stage where you have come to collaborate with American Eagle is really commendable, and I admire it
Thank you.
a lot.
Yeah.
And about talking, I also remember that you are, I'm aware that you are invited to colleges frequently.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that I've always wanted to ask you was about your TEDx talk that you gave and the Uncle Ben theory that you are
Yeah.
famous for.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
Sure, sure, yeah. So back in I think 2018, I was invited to speak for my first TEDx event. And I think this is a great time to talk about this with Spider-Man releasing in 2 weeks too. But so I mean, I've always been a Spider-Man fan, like since I was a kid, and this is not like me trying to be a Marvel fanboy. Like I've genuinely been a Spider-Man fan for a long time. So the movies, everything about the character, I really resonated with. So when I was thinking about what to speak, and I don't exactly remember the theme of the TEDx that year, but it was something to do about about impact, about life, about students and stuff. So it's very cliched, but the Uncle Ben theory just revolves around this thing where Uncle Ben is known for that one famous line, right? With great power comes great responsibility. So I started to see or think about how does that apply to the real world? Like it's amazing to fascinate about Disney, about it would be really cool if we were Spider-Man and we had all those powers. But I started to think, okay, how can a normal kid like me or anybody really think about that line, and how does that apply to us? So the it sprung in, like it really grew in my head when I started watching a lot of other TEDx, and I came across this one very cool TEDx talk by Mel Robbins, and it's a very famous one, very famous one. And she said this one line where the odds of you being born, like you as an individual, is 1 in 400 trillion. So you, me, your brother, whoever, anyone who's walking on planet Earth right now, their odds of being born is 1 in 400 trillion. So, and this is a scientific fact. So scientists, took into account a lot of things like biology, evolution, research, your parents' DNA. They took a multitude of factors and came up with this number. So if you think about it, like the fact that we're even here, born, as cliched as it sounds, it's a miracle, right? Like not everyone got that chance. You beat out 399 trillion, 999 billion, whatever, that huge number of people to be here today. I don't care what situation you're in. You might be in a bad situation. You might be born into like a bad circumstance, but you're still born. And I think that's our power, that no one else got, like you beat out so many people. So you're here, that's our power. But with that power comes that responsibility, so you come into this earth, you're born, you have like a finite period of life. We don't even know what that finite period looks like. I can be gone tomorrow. I can be gone in 10 years. I can be gone in 20 years. I don't know. So when you have that finite period of time, I think we also have that responsibility to do something bigger than ourselves. Otherwise, what's the point? Like, and by bigger than ourselves, I mean making an impact, doing something for others. Even if you're interested in something that is, I don't know, even if you're interested in something that doesn't revolve exactly to impact people, you should find a way to make a difference in your industry for the betterment of the world, for the betterment of people. And that relates to being a hero, right? Like you do those things because you have to. If you don't leave the earth better than the way you found it, then what's the point? What's the point of you being given that shot at living life? So that's what I want. That's what I call the Uncle Ben theory. That I really think that all of us can apply it to our lives. We should think of ourselves as a miracle, because I don't care if there's 8 billion people on planet Earth, but you're still a part of that 8 billion. So think about how can you do something bigger than who you are as a person. And yeah, and pursue it. It doesn't, I don't mean you go to, go volunteer in an NGO right now. You don't have to do that. Whatever you feel in your own way you can make a difference, you should. I really think that is a responsibility that we all have. And if you don't, I think you've really wasted your life, or you've wasted the opportunity you've been given. So that's it. I know it's very cliche, dude, like, but it's something that I believe in.
Yeah, even to bring in a little bit of philosophy as well. So do you know this about a famous Canadian psychologist named Jordan Peterson?
Yes, yeah. I love the dude.
So, I love that dude too. So there's this famous thing that he professes that that you should pick up a responsibility heavy enough that makes your suffering worthwhile. Because what is life at the end of the day? It is a lot of suffering. Well, you might not see some sufferings, but we are suffering at every day at some point of time, and even the future is uncertain. So what makes the suffering worthwhile is taking up a huge responsibility that can justify your own living as well. So that is in those terms only, to just to add to your point.
No, agreed. That's a very good point. Yeah.
And so then after you graduated, Vishal, you started FireFlies, and which is mainly on marketing agency, if I'm not wrong. So can you tell me why did you choose marketing as your specialization, and what led to the foundation of FireFlies?
Yeah. So I've been quite entrepreneurial ever since I was young. Like I've always been taking up projects that was my own thing. So the gap between me dropping out of BITS and joining Harriet, that 3-month gap or 2-month gap I had, I went back to India, set up a preschool in my hometown for my grandmother to take care of. She's still taking care of it there. It's called Kindle Preschool. I wanted to get into education first. That was something I'm very passionate about. And particularly in education, I wanted to change how schools are viewed. I was very passionate about students waking up excited about school. I was like, how do we change that? Because you remember when we were in school, right? Like there was no one point, I don't think, except for like field trips or like competition days, there was a day where I was very excited to go to school and sit in class. Unfortunately, I'm being very honest, right? School gave me a lot, and I'm still proud of being a part of GEMS and whatever, but you know what I mean. So I wanted to change that. I wanted to see, there needs to be this drastic change, because, these students and the youth are literally going to shape the world. If they're uninspired, what's the point? Like, what is the point of teaching them so many things, but they're not inspired to do anything with it. So that's where the preschool thing came up. So I went and set that up, learned a lot there. Learned, my grandmother's also a little entrepreneurial, so I got an opportunity to learn from her. Then I came back, joined uni, and honestly, for the first semester or first couple of months, I was pretty lost in life because it was a new university. Although I'm an extrovert and I mingle well with people, I was quite alone. Those couple of months, I didn't know a lot of people there. Didn't have a chance to make a lot of friends because I joined in the spring semester, fall semester, Jan semester. So the groups have already been made. So
Yeah.
you're coming in mid semester, right? So you don't know anybody. So although I was social and I was like I had a lot of quote unquote acquaintances, I didn't have friends. So I was a little down and about during that time. So all I could do was I was in this thing called Step Up, which is the nonprofit that I ran. It was started by my friends and co-founders Saima and Manal. So I was speaking to her about just starting a nonprofit, but they had their own. So I just joined them and started working on what we could do there, what are things we could do. I took up an internship, but 2 weeks in, I realized I didn't want to work for someone else or work in an internship, so I quit that too. And then slowly, when it came to end of 2016, I got into university events and stuff, and like met my co-founder there too. But then I realized I wanted to start something in education, and I knew when I was going to start a company, it had to be called FireFlies. I don't know what I was doing, but it had to be called FireFlies. So that's where FireFlies Education was born. It's an education startup that I started back in 2016 December. The idea was we want Coursera, edX, and everything, right? The online courses. So we wanted to recreate that, but instead of universities teaching you, you would have companies doing online courses. So imagine instead of you doing a course on business and finance by Harvard for 3 months online, you would be doing a course on finance by Standard Chartered online. So we felt like companies in the industry will be able to give you more practical knowledge and experience to their courses, and being certified by them is very applicable. So if you go into the finance field and say that, hey, I have a certification by Standard Chartered, it would be a little more impressive for them because you're literally getting knowledge from experts in the industry. So we wanted to start that. That was something we thought was going to change the world, honestly, because we thought like, again, like I talked about, when you're having that summer break or when you have something, if you're not able to get internships in big universities, what if you can learn from them nonetheless, at big companies? So we started that whole process of FireFlies education. Spent like 2.5 years on it. We went into a lot of, and this was a proper tech startup. So you go for like startup competitions, you pitch, you try and get money, you try and get funding, valuations, all of that nonsense. We did for 2 years. We built an MVP. Every startup competition we went to, we were the finalist out of like 60 to 70 startups that took part, and we were the youngest ones. So I remember 2018 November, we participated in our first big one, and this time we were just building an MVP. We didn't even have an MVP. We launched it to the market. I mean, we went and pitched, and we came in the top 5 to pitch for the second round out of 70 startups there. And I was the youngest. We were the youngest startup by 7 years. So I was 20 at that time. And the second founder who got into the finals was 27. So we knew that there was something very, different about our idea. And these were all like evaluated by industry experts. So we decided to push and try. We launched an MVP. We had 40 schools, a lot of interest involved. But eventually, this was just before COVID, like a month before COVID broke out. We understood I wasn't making money. I just graduated. So I'm like, you know what, now it's time to actually make money, and this isn't going anywhere. For a lot of reasons, that idea didn't work. So we thought, okay, how do we pivot? Now, my co-founders and I come from an events background. We loved running events. We ran events in university. My co-founders broke a Guinness World Record for the tallest cupcake tower when they finished high school. And they were in F1 as well. So we always loved that process. And obviously, while FireFlies was going on, I did a bunch of other things on the side. I consulted for brands. I worked in marketing at that time. And that too, it wasn't an internship. I was just consulting through an agency. So I got paid for those things. And I had an interest in it, but not necessarily a burning passion compared to what education was. So we realized there was a gap in the market for like brands to target the youth and Gen Z, the spending power. Like I said, If they can roll up in a Alfa Romeo in university, they have the money to spend on an American Eagle, on different clothes, right? So targeting them is important, but targeting them in the right manner. So we knew that there was a gap. So we had that connection already with schools, with universities, with that youth population. So how do we use that from our previous startup to do something else? And that's when we pivoted and we were like, cool, we're going to help these big brands. We were telling them make courses for students. Now we were telling them, let us help you market to students through marketing campaigns, through, influencers and stuff. And we were the only Gen Z focused agency at that time. And we still are, sort of. So yeah, and that picked up. And obviously it wasn't easy because we wanted to start with events first, because that's what we knew. We weren't in the digital space at all. We had two major six-figure contracts lined up. And that was like first time I saw revenue, thinking I was going to see revenue come in. And then COVID came in, and both those event contracts got canceled. And again, it forced us to pivot to digital. So I started to learn about digital marketing, about how we can do digital campaigns. And we got somehow we managed to come, and we were new at the market, right? So getting these big brands is not easy. There have been agencies that have been in the industry for what, 15, 20 years. So how do we compete with them? So we started pitching at very, very, very unreasonably low amounts. Like we weren't going to make any money, but we just thought, you know what, if we get those companies' names, at least we'll be able to get other brands on board. So we started our first client, I still remember, was Logitech. We did like a small campaign for them. Then we got Bath and Body Works, then we got Herschel, then we got Yamaha. Slowly and steadily, we started building it. Then we started doing TikTok. We have like 4 TikTok clients now. And yeah, then haven't looked back since then. We've had privilege to be working with some big brands. We work with Victoria's Secret now. Regularly we're like pitching to more big brands at the moment. It's still competitive, it's still not at the level we want it to be, but we'll get there. Let's see what happens. But yeah, that's the whole journey in the past 4 years or 5 years.
Right. So,
Yeah.
how has your experience been with working with such huge companies in when you were an ed tech startup? So,
Okay.
and were they like more supportive, or were they more doubtful? Okay, how are you
Yeah.
going to market our courses, and how
Yeah.
concise their courses were? Were they like really helpful for a person who will be consuming the content, or it
Yeah.
was just like for the sake of giving you the course?
Yeah. So see, we were also starting off in that phase, so we're not from an education background either. So we did what we thought was right, and I think we did a pretty decent job to begin with. The thing was, our MVP was with a international organization called Isaac. I'm pretty sure you guys have that there, Isaac India. It's like a non-profit, and we wanted to do a course on career skills. That's the basic thing we thought we could think of. But we were in conversation with like the likes of McAfee, Standard Chartered, a lot of these big brands. Now, with the concept, there was a lot of excitement for it because they were like, wow, these guys are young. They're in the startup field. A lot of eyes are on them. Like a lot of people, we had 40 schools, 20 universities, so people knew that we held a lot of power and they were excited about it. But what the problem was, Middle East and Dubai in general, all these big brands only have sales offices technically. They don't have like, anything beyond marketing and sales here. So if Victoria's Secret is here, or let's say a big brand is here, most of them are here with the primary focus of selling to this audience. Very, very unlikely that they have inputs on
Research and
design,
development.
yeah, research development.
Uh,
They do. It's not like they don't. It's growing a lot
hmm.
now, but it's not to the extent where headquarters have. So all the headquarters of these global brands are in Europe or in North America and whatever. So even if they want to make a decision on this, it had to cut through a lot of red tape, go to HQ, tell them, hey, there are a bunch of kids in Dubai who want to start this. And they also get excited. We had a convo with the HQ as well. And they were interested to take it further. But again, I think another big disadvantage is that the market wasn't ready for it. UAE as a market wasn't ready for it. I still feel if we were in the US and we had access to these HQs so directly, I am pretty convinced that we could have revolutionized the industry that way, because it is something that we feel, and it's already coming up. Coursera, edX already offer courses by companies already, but we wanted to specifically just focus on companies. So it's hard to work with companies in the sense that it's hard to get a hold of them, because everybody's trying to grab their attention. Like there's thousands and thousands of emails that they get every day from agencies, from people trying to sell them stuff. So you needed to really be different to get their attention. So you needed to say things that was different. You needed to capture their attention. So, and obviously through F1, through the skills that I gained from there, I got good at capturing the attention of these big brands. So I knew what to write on the email, I knew what to say over the phone, and once they gave me a meeting, I knew how to walk them. So yeah, it is cool, and it really depends on the person behind the title as well. Some clients are amazing. They're very future look forward looking. They're very innovative. They want to do different things. While as some clients, they're more orthodox. You have to really convince them with numbers. You have to sit and talk to them 100 times before they convince. So it's a balance, but it's exciting, honestly. Nonetheless, it's very, very exciting to be in that field.
Yeah, that's true. The thing about, it's really hard to convince people who are into that orthodox mentality that this cannot work out. But at the same time,
Yeah,
it's that, novelty that they should be fascinated with, because once you have
yeah,
their support, they can, really push you further. And when it comes
100%.
to this marketing agency that you're talking about, so
Yeah.
what you're doing is kind of influencer marketing, or is it like brand management, or like branding?
Yeah, so there's three areas of focus that we have now. So influencer marketing, but we only focus on young Gen Z influencers. So like that's a specialty of us. So our influencers are anywhere between the age of 13 to 24. So, and these are just your popular kids in universities and schools. They're not like 100,000, 200,000 followers. They have like maybe 3,000 to 4,000 followers
Okay,
at
okay. Okay.
max. So we follow a micro influencer strategy or a nano influencer strategy. So instead of looking at two big influencers, we look at 10 small influencers, and we give them the products. We tell them how to talk about it, how to do it, and we manage that whole A to Z campaign. We started off with that, and I think that caught a lot of attention. Now we have this network of influencers, not just in UAE, but in Saudi. We're developing it to Kuwait, Oman. Now my next goal is to see how we can get a tech involved in it, and maybe build a platform for it, internal platform, not an external one that we can use to optimize these campaigns, which we already have a version of it, but we want to build it even further. So that's one thing. The second thing that we do is launch and manage TikTok accounts. So for the brand, so we create content for them, we get the models, we shoot the TikToks, we look at trends, and we upload the content on their page. So it's like a social media management, but specifically only for TikTok. So those are two things that's really bringing in the revenue right now. But we don't want to call ourselves an agency. We want to call ourselves a brand, because we're doing other stuff too. Now we're like, look, we're giving our services for free to the World Wildlife Fund, which is an NGO focused on, helping protect wildlife and sustainability initiatives. They focused on that. We're talking to the United Nations, UNHCR, that the organization that's focused on helping refugees. So as a brand, we want to focus on things that Gen Z cares about as well. We also, in the future, or even now, we're looking at products that we can bring into the market that will Gen Z would love to use. So we don't want to limit ourselves to a marketing agency. It's just what's bringing in the money right now. But eventually, we do want to expand to other things too. But yeah, currently the focus is influencers and TikTok.
Hmm. For a
Yeah.
person who has come from India about a year ago, to hear
Mhm.
TikTok as a medium of marketing, I don't
Yeah.
we don't see TikTok as a a beneficial platform, I would
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
people who had been using TikTok used to create only cringe content.
Of course.
So,
Yeah.
so the TikTok had a very bad image back in India, although now it's also banned in India now. But now
Yeah.
that you are talking about it in a way that can be useful, there is a change in perspective for me as well. Okay, maybe it is only the creator that was cringe and not the platform itself.
Platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I was of the same impression. Like when I started, I was like, what is this platform? Like it's not, but now it's my primary source of revenue in the company, and it is literally the largest company in the world, the biggest platform in existence. 3 billion app downloads already. The user time on the app is a lot more than the other platforms in certain countries. And yeah, it really depends on the person. I think honestly, it changed the game completely for creators. Like I know, like I'll give you a simple example. It took PewDiePie, the famous YouTuber, We all know him, right? The gamer. If you think about YouTube, we think about him. It took him 10 years to get to 100 million subscribers, whereas it took Charlie D'Amelio 2 years on TikTok to get to 100 million subscribers, or less than that, if I'm not wrong. So this platform really, and it's not even her as a big example. That's a big example. Let's take smaller examples. If you're good at your content, it's no more about like, who what do you say? Like with YouTube, it was a little more difficult. It was a long game, right? But with TikTok, it's like if the audience thinks your content is good, you will become viral. You will be shown to a lot of people. Like for example, I just posted 2 videos in the last month about my family. Very simple, few seconds, funny thing. One of them got 20,000 views. The other one got 67,000 views. And can you imagine how hard it is to have gotten that back, like in with Instagram or with YouTube? But TikTok allows you to do that. It really depends on how creative you are, how good your content is, how you're able to capture people's attention in that 3 seconds. So it's completely changed the game. Honestly, I think it is right now one of the most important platform. I think every brand needs to be on it because it's such a great way for you to organically build an audience. So you can, I know influencers who've gone from like people my age who've gone from 0 to 100,000 followers in 1 year. 1 year is all it took without spending a dirham on ads or on paid media or anything. They just posted 2 to 3 times a day, fun videos, fun concepts. All of them got. Now it's more difficult because like there are more users, so it's difficult to get people's attention. But
It has become
people who started,
saturated, yeah.
yeah, but people who started in that peak period, they have all benefited from it incredibly. Like it's insane. So for us, a micro influencer on Instagram is 3,000 followers, but on TikTok, a micro influencer is 20 to 25,000 followers. That's a micro influencer. It's not
Wow.
even like a, yeah. So it's insane, man. Like I really think it's changed it. It's really helped a lot of creators as well. It's helped a lot of businesses because a lot of small companies were able to blow up and get a lot of business to their this thing. Like cafes were able to get like thousands and thousands of views. So yeah, we want more brands to understand the importance of it and get onto the platform and tell them that. And the thing is, I think the reason why we're good at it is also because we know what companies also want, right? They need to be a little professional, even though it's TikTok. They need to know, like, okay, how do we still keep our brand image? How do we still do that? So we have that experience the past 5 years working in the industry. But we are also Gen Z. We sit on the app like 3 hours a day. So we also know what people want to watch. So we were able to find that balance between the both. And that companies obviously need because they're not able to get anyone else to do it right now in the way that we do it. So yeah, we're having exciting convos, but again, even if we offer a great product, the market is very competitive. It's very hard to get people on board. But yeah, exciting
Mm,
stuff, man. Honestly, TikTok is really exciting.
yeah. So since you have been in this industry for quite some time now, what would be your equation? Like if I had to say that on YouTube I have 100K subscribers. So what would
Hmm.
it mean that how many is it? It is equivalent to how many followers on Instagram, and it is equal to how many followers on TikTok.
Yeah, so it's hard to say that because again, each platform is different. The way you grow in that platform is different. I would definitely commend YouTube creators who, it's a lot more difficult for them to grow because it's organic. Now that YouTube Shorts are there, I don't know if you know about that. YouTube Shorts is their own TikTok version of it. That again, they're all just following the same model. Instagram Reels also came up because they saw how TikTok was performing, right? They needed to
Right.
compete with it. That also again has leveled the playing field in that platform. But before, when those things didn't exist, it was hard to grow your Instagram or your YouTube. So I mean, I can't give a definitive answer to equate the number of followers because there's a lot of factors to think about: how much time you spend, the kind of creator, the kind of industry. Is it comedy? Is it serious? Is it the market also? For example,
Mm,
in this market, comedic content will do way better, but it is possible that in America, serious content will do a lot better than a person who's serious in Dubai. You get what I mean? Like if I start posting entrepreneurial content here, it won't go as viral as it would in the US because of how
okay.
the platform is, because of the audience as well. So there's a
Mm,
lot of things to consider. Here, the audience is a lot more laid back on TikTok. They just want to see fun stuff. They just want to see be
yeah.
entertained. Very few percentage do like to see that whole, okay, you know what, sometimes I want to hear a motivational thing or whatever, but
Right.
not as much as how it would be in the US or in the UK. So I still think going forward, brands need to be everywhere. It's not about focus anymore. It's not that, oh, I will only be on Facebook, I will only be on Instagram. No, you have to be everywhere. You have to be on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest. What if the Spotify, if there's a new thing that comes up, you need to be on it because you never know where that shift of dynamic or audience will come from because no one took TikTok seriously 2 years ago. But now, if
Yeah,
you're
right.
not on TikTok, you are behind. You are running behind compared to other brands. So I think, and I think volume is, and another major thing about platforms is how content has become a lot more less commercialized. So before, when you look at an ad, you would look at it and be like, oh, this is an ad, I want to skip it. You know it's an ad, right? There are very few ads you look at and go like, that was mind blowing. I would want to buy that product. Right now, if an ad interrupts my video on YouTube, you hate that brand. You want to skip it. You don't want to see it. But on
Right.
TikTok, the way you're selling stuff is more organic. You're being fun with it. You're like, it doesn't feel like they're trying to sell it to you. And that's what we want to try and do with brands. Tell them that you just have to create organic content. So for example, if I'm trying to sell, let's say, Victoria's Secret, it's crazy. I'll send you the videos after, but like it's for the young version of it where they wear hoodies and sweatpants and stuff. So our influencers, they just showed how those clothes fit into their daily life. So they just vlogged their day. They went to uni, they went to gym, they showed the clothes being used in that. Simple, but it did so well in the sense that people were like, oh wow, they look so good in their VS Pink outfits. But they weren't telling that, hey, go buy VS Pink. They never said that even once. It was very like subtle, the marketing. So that's how people would want marketing to go as well. Like they want it to be very subtle, not telling you that you should go buy this, you should go take that, you should go do this. Because at the end of the day, I don't think any of us like that. So that
Yeah,
transition is going to be really cool to see.
yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
And I have this one last question for you.
sure.
You have been doing business in Dubai for like 5 to 7 years now.
Yeah.
Now, how do you view Dubai as a city to do business? Is it like really difficult? Is it easy? And how much it is beneficial for a youth who has just graduated from a university to enter the entrepreneurial market?
Okay. So again, couple of factors you need to consider. So one of them is, how is your financial situation right now? Are you in dire need of money? You need to ask yourself. If so, I would say you need to get a job and then do a side hustle to bring your business to that level. It is quite possible to do that in the UAE. With certain industries, it's not. Like, for example, like it's not as easy as in the US because here there's no concept of 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. If you join a company in Dubai, your time starts at 9, it might go up till 6, 7, 8, 9 in the night. There's no like, break. So after that, working on your side hustle is a lot more difficult unless, like it is possible for some people, but it's not. So it is a little more challenging compared to other countries because UAE work hours are a lot more. This city, tech, I still think this city never sleeps compared to any other city in the world. Like I know people my friends who worked till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., got up and then went to office at 6 again in the morning. So it's a little hard to do a full-time job and a business. It's not impossible, it's hard. But I would say that should be your first option if you need money as well to survive. Now, let's say you're in a situation where you're really young, you touch wood, you are well to do, you have a family who's supporting you, you have some money in the bank. I would say experiment in some different industries, try doing different things. Let's say you're into clothes, maybe start a clothing line. If you're into food, try and bring a new snack into the market. And even if it doesn't work out the best, if you have that little money to afford to lose, you'll learn so much more from it than you'll ever learn doing something else, right? The third thing about competitiveness, yes, it's a very, 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 very competitive market. Like it is a small market, first of all, comparatively to other markets. UAE is a small country. 9 million is not a lot of people compared to India or even Saudi Arabia or other markets. So you're competing for a smaller market with a lot more companies. So any business you get into, expect competition. You can't tell me there's no competition at all. Like if a businessman says to me that they don't have competition, that means they haven't done their market research well enough. So there is a version of competition. Might not be the same thing you're doing, but there is competition for sure. So and they would have been in the industry for years. They've already built their name. suppliers, everything, they've gotten it to the bone. So competing with them means you need to be really, really, really good. So I think those factors considering, you need to be passionate about what you do. If you don't like it, then like you're gonna have sleepless nights. You're gonna have to work weekends when people are going for brunches or bars. You gotta sit and do your pay your dues. If you don't like what you do, you're not going to be able to do those things. So it's a combination of factors. All these problems are there in other markets as well, but specifically in Dubai, because of the reasons I mentioned, it is difficult. Now, if you're looking at a proper startup, like let's say not a business, and by startup, I mean a tech solution. Let's say you came up with an app or a revolutionary fintech product or a food tech product or whatever it is, there are several incubators and opportunities here for you to get funding. That's incredible in Dubai. There's a lot of accelerators. You go and pitch your, even if it's in the seed stage or idea stage, it is quite possible with your background. If you can show some credibility, people will invest 10 to 50,000 dirhams on it to get you started. There are opportunities for that. I've seen university kids get funded 50K for their ideas, 50,000 dirhams. That's a lot of money. There are, for entrepreneurs, there are licenses that are cheap as well, so that you don't have to shell out a lot of capital. A lot of opportunities are coming, so Dubai wants to become that entrepreneurial hub. I just really think, do you as a person have that in you to do it? Like that's the biggest question you got to ask yourself. Because it's, again, like I know every entrepreneur says this, but it's not as easy as people say it is. It's not as glamorous as people think it is. You are constantly thinking about, like, even when I'm talking to you, behind my head, there's like there's something ringing, like, oh damn, you gotta send that email. Oh damn, you gotta, figure that out, or you gotta post that TikTok. Or you gotta prepare for that speech. Like, yes, maybe 10 years down the line will not be worth it, but when you're in it right now in the early 20s or in that 20s, you're hustling when you're starting. It's one of the hardest things you will ever do in your life. Like, it'll break you. People will, and excuse my language, people will shit on you. People will do everything to you. If you're willing to handle all of that, there's no adventure unlike starting your own company, honestly.
That's very well put up. To be honest, it is I also aspire to be an entrepreneur in the future, but right now I'm not in that situation. So I'm kind of side hustling as well
Listen,
with this podcast and trying to find a
for
job
sure,
and
it's
do a job.
amazing, man.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I do lean in that direction. But yeah, I guess this is going to be like a good foundation for how to plan the future. And anybody who
Yeah.
is watching this will certainly find this very valuable. That if you want to do entrepreneurship immediately after your graduation after the university, then this is the way to go about it. And
Yeah.
you have to look at other factors as well, their personal factors, which we might
Yeah.
not be aware of. Yeah.
To quickly jump in on two more points, which I think is very important. A lot of people miss out on this. A is that when you're in your early 20s and if you want to start a company, I would tell them that forget about buying anything glamorous or living a glamorous life for a while. Because the biggest problem is, you see your friends, like I had this too, like your friends are earning a decent amount every month, right? They get to go out as much as they can, they live in good apartments, all of that. You can also get that if you want. It's your decision that you want to be an entrepreneur. So you need to keep your overheads low. So instead of living in a very fancy apartment, go, and all this, I know I sound like Gary Vee, but again, it's just the truth. When you get into it, you realize everything that guy says is true. So you keep your overheads low, don't spend your money on unnecessary things. So when your expenses are low, you can afford to do the business. You don't have to pay for anything. It's when your expenses are high, like you live in a very fancy place, fancy apartment, you have fancy expenses, you need money to fund those things. But if your expenses are low, you can start your business and live a very decent and humble life until your business kicks off. But then again, there's a lot of risk involved in it. You really need to be passionate about the industry. And what I would say to people who are thinking of starting their own thing right after uni, just think about this big factor and think about which market would your idea fit in very well. And the third thing is love that industry before getting into it. You must be convinced that this is some, don't jump in for it for the money. If you think you're going to be the next unicorn, and that everyone thinks that, like even with my edtech startup, I was convinced I was going to be that 1%er because of the praise. You'll get that praise also. You will maybe reach that point where you get funding, everything looks good, people are commending you. We were in that stage where we got like a lot of big eyes on us. Media also started hearing our name a lot. but then it all came crashing down after that. So it could happen to anybody in the industry. So you got to be willing to take those risks and be. But at the same time, I think if you go through that process and it didn't work out, the skills you would have gained in that 3 4 years would can't be compared to the skills you would gain anywhere else. I would honestly say you'll become more self-reliant. If you go and work after that, it will be a little difficult, but I feel you can put forward a better image in front of companies because you'll become more independent and companies need that as well. So yeah, man, I really hope that was useful for people as well.
Yeah, see,
To,
just to add to your point, uh, it has to be quite realistic as well, because
yes.
anybody has a has their own personal investment in any project that they are doing. So let's take my example here as well. It has been like nearly 6 months that I've been consistently posting episodes on the weekend. Now in my
Yeah.
mind, it's like, okay, 6 months I've done consistently. Now I can see myself as a future ka Joe Rogan. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you need to have that real feedback as well. Okay, how much money I'm putting in doing this, how much money, how much energy I am, putting into call guests, and how much they are also convinced. Okay, let's go on the podcast and really open ourselves up and not just do things for the sake of formality.
Yeah.
And the second most important point is that when you talk about this overheads, now since you told me that you have already watched Jordan Peterson's content, there is this concept of pleasure island that he describes when it
Hmm.
comes with reference to the movie Pinocchio. Now, how do you define a
Right.
pleasure island? Is where you have everything, okay, leading to nothing. So at the same time, I have to be very conscious as well that everything that is around me, although it is very flamboyant and it is quite tempting to buy an expensive clothes or buy, live in an expensive apartment. You have to be realistic that it is not possible for me right now to do that. Maybe in the future I can do it, but right now it's not possible.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, man. And it's like, again, and one more thing that a lot of content gets wrong is people say, oh, money isn't everything, money can't buy happiness. There's nothing wrong with wanting money. Like, I will be the first one to say, yes, I do want to be a millionaire. I do want to buy expensive cars. I want to live in great mansions. I want to travel the world. All those things I want to do. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that's something that I don't want just because it fits the entrepreneurial checklist. No, there's nothing wrong with wanting money, but the fastest way not to get there is just by trying to chase only money. That's just, again, you realize those things only when you do it and you make those mistakes. Like, I know people like, getting into crypto now because like, oh my God, that's where the money is.
Yeah,
I got
that's
to
the
jump
hype.
into it. Yeah, then there's NFTs. They're like, damn man, I gotta get into that because that's where the money is. But if you don't have that genuine interest in it, you're not gonna spend time learning about it, spend time reading about it, spend time making mistakes and then going forward with it. So unless that's gonna happen, you're gonna lose more money. So find something you like doing, invest all your energy on it, and money will 100% come. Like, people will pay for talent, people will pay for good skills, people will pay for the best. 100% people will pay for the best, but you just need to focus on getting to that best part. You don't need to focus on whether people will pay or not. Again, I'm 100% sure every businessman or entrepreneur will tell you the same thing. um, and yeah,
So, I mean, Vishal, that was really a great conversation to have, and catching up with you after a very long time. And
100%, man.
yeah, this has been really fun. And one thing that I really liked about is that people always pitch Dubai as a city where everything is possible. I mean, that is true, but you have to, just like I said, you have to be realistic about your own expectations. Nowhere were you telling, oh yeah, you can do that, you can do that, you can do that. You are always giving real opinions where these things are the setbacks that you have to face
Yeah,
to to reach where you are. It's not easy way, and that's sound advice as well to everyone who will be listening to this episode.
I hope so. Yeah, thank you for having me, man. Thank you so much. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. Now I'm stopping the recording at this point.